I pulled an article all the way back to January 14, 1861, where a cobbler has got an ad in the paper and it says, "Boots and shoes, still in town." Next to the adjoining Sharif brick building at the Canal Street, so-called, I may be found pegging away, thanking old customers for their patronage and soliciting a continuance. I need only to say I shall, as heretofore, my best endeavors to give you satisfaction. Signed, John Baker, boot and shoemaker, dedicated to a product of fit for use. When the labor guilds came, they still worked for the master, and the master ordered the materials, and it had to be made according to the master, fit for use. Hang on to that. All things changed when the French Revolution came along. It ignited new conflicts between Britain, France, and the United States. And so our War Department decided that it was really important that they have a contract to manufacture 10,000 muskets. Now, to this date, this was a heavy thing to say, because to this date, every musket, the parts and pieces would not fit another musket. So the contract was put out that they needed 10,000 muskets, which would be a heavy, heavy task. Eli Whitney, which you know quite well, is the inventor of the cotton gin, who had never made a gun in his life, won one of the contracts. And so in January of 1798, to deliver 10 to 15,000 muskets, his contract had to be fulfilled by 1800. This was quite a challenge because if you can imagine sitting down and making individual muskets, 10 to 15,000 of them. So Eli, being as smart as he was, came up with a new process for production. And in 1799 to 1801, he began promoting a new idea of interchangeable parts. And he actually delivered the 10,000 muskets a bit late, but in 1809. And so I want you to kind of try to imagine it. Prior to this, every musket was different. You couldn't interchange the parts. And Eli Whitney came up with a process whereby he could get all the parts and pieces to be interchangeable so that they can, in fact, have a mass production. If there's anything that this industry needs in the next 5 years is the ability to retrofit millions of houses. Mass production. So Eli Whitney used all the innovation and creation that probably was within him. I don't know if you know what he was going through at the time. He was severely poor. He was going through lots of litigation on the cotton gin and was about just broke. But he set his mind to the task. And here's his factory for building firearms. The Eli Whitney Improved Firearms. And in fact, here we have something that's going to change the way products are delivered. So he's mass producing muskets for the first time in history. So the approach of interchangeable parts causes a major change in the production of a product. The production moves from the master craftsman producing a product fit for use to the production of a precise specifications written down and given to the worker. Way different. No longer would the person producing the product be in direct contact with the customer. And they would make pieces and not the whole. In other words, you might be making just the flintlock and never see the whole musket. And that was a major change. We moved at that point of time from fit to use, for use, to production to print. By the way, we're still today at production to print. We have specifications and scopes and protocols, and they're all written down. Nothing wrong with the process. But it moved away from the customer. And so there is a great need to realize that customer intimacy began to move away just slightly. So we moved from fit for use to production to print. Of course, most of you know that Henry Ford took Eli Whitney's idea of interchangeable parts, and he took his ideas of mass production. And if you're reading the slide, you can see that by 1927, with the process of interchangeable parts and mass production, he was able to produce 15 million Model Ts in that short period of time. And over that period of time was World War I. So that was quite a task to produce 15 million vehicles. And as you can see the production line, people doing parts and pieces, never seeing the whole, never touching the customer. Then World War I broke out. And posters began to go up. And this one's kind of an interesting, it says, "Hello, this is Liberty speaking. Billions of dollars are needed, and needed now." Does this sound familiar? If you want to fight, join the Marines. I want to have a little discussion with you. If you want to win this war on poverty, if you want to win this war on performance, join this crowd. You are the cream of the crop. You are the champions of the future. Without you, there is no hope. And so therefore, our commitment to how we produce our product and our ability to, as in one voice, speak loud that any work we do must perform. If it doesn't perform, it's not acceptable. If you want to fight, join the home performance industry. We can get jobs and we can make buildings perform. For action, enlist in the air service. And so they were plastering these posters all over the place because in World War I, our nation was at a place of great need, similar to the need we're seeing right now. This is just one of the shipyards. How many ships do you think they were building at one time? And the War Office said we need to be able to build ships defect-free. They took on armies of men and women to train in World War I to make ships. And the call went across the nation of someone who could rise up and lead a program that could train thousands of people to do defect-free work. And in World War I, the man's name that did that was Charles R. Allen, who wrote a book in 1919. The name of the book was The Instructor, the Man, and the Job. And by the way, if you got a pad of paper, write it down. You can go on the web. It's 396 pages. Everyone in this room who is a manager or does training or has people who need training, it should be mandatory reading.